Coming up on this Monday edition of Newsline at noon, foreign policy and security-related ministries together present a blueprint for the eventual unification of the Korean peninsula, including necessary legislation and inter-Korean projects. The government unveils plans to attract $23 billion in investment to boost the nation's tourism industry, including creating 2 mega casino resorts. Plus, images of Islamic State flags have been found on the computer of a missing Korean teenager who may have joined the extremist group in Syria. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
It's new Monday, January 19th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this lunchtime, the South Korean ministries in charge of foreign affairs, defense and unification have presented their blueprint for this year.
Top of their agenda is preparing for the reunification of the two Koreas. Hwang Seung-hee reports.
South Korea is rolling up its sleeves to reunify the Korean peninsula. 4 government ministries and institutions in charge of diplomacy and security presented a blueprint for 2015 on Monday, focusing on practical reunification preparations. Led by the Unification Ministry, the plan includes securing peace and stability on the peninsula by stepping up national security against any North Korean threats. South Korea will also bolster strategic cooperation with countries like the United States and China to denuclearize Pyongyang. Building a platform for national consent on reunification is another key project. 92% of South Koreans were born after the peninsula was divided in two. Seoul is planning various joint cultural events with Pyongyang and more classes on reunification at schools to narrow the gap between South and North Koreans. South Korea is seeking to hold government-level talks with North Korea this year to reach fundamental solutions for humanitarian issues like war-separated families. Hundreds of thousands of families remain torn apart for more than 6 decades after being separated by the Korean War. Seoul also plans to propose jointly celebrating the 70th anniversary of independence from Japanese rule. South Korea will actively seek the support of the international community by explaining that a reunified Korea will be beneficial. It will speed up regional economic projects like the Eurasia Initiative, an ambitious vision to build a new economic bloc involving landlocked nations in Eurasia, Korea, China, and Japan. And along with these plans, the government says it will work to make North Korea a key partner in its efforts for reunification. Hwang Seung-hee, Arirang News.
North Korea has laid out its precondition to hold reunions for families separated since the Korean War. Seoul has to lift the sanctions imposed on it after the torpedoing of a South Korean warship in 2010. According to its propaganda website, the North says Seoul is raising tensions by holding military drills with the United States and by not stopping activists flying anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border. The website says the ball is in South Korea's court, and when it provides the environment and conditions, the issue of family reunions will be solved and inter-Korean relations will improve. Now, you might think that South Korean firms operating within the Kaesong industrial complex have a tough time given North Korea's history of pulling the plug on the place in 2013. Well, in reality, it's quite the opposite. Listed companies there have been performing very well with their sales growth and profits outstripping other local businesses. Kim Min-jae reports.
Listed South Korean firms with operations at the Kaesong Industrial Complex have been faring well despite inter-Korean relations blowing hot and cold over the years. According to the Corporate Association of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, the company's average sales rose nearly 120% between 2005 and 2013. Their operating profits also jumped more than 140% over the same period. This translates into a compound annual growth rate of about 10% in terms of sales and 12% in operating profit. Some listed companies even logged double-digit growth rates in sales, operating profits, and net profitability. The market capitalization of the firms also jumped an average of nearly 490% between 2005 and 2014. South Korean firms entered the Kaesong Industrial Complex in 2004, and full operations began in December that year when it started production. The firms tend to suffer when tensions are high on the Korean peninsula, and they were hit the hardest in 2013 when North Korea unilaterally shut down the complex for 6 months. However, despite such drawbacks, experts say cheap labor is an advantage that boosts the firm's competitiveness, and their performance is being reflected in their share prices. In contrast, South Korean firms overall have seen their profitability drop over the last few years due to sluggish growth, especially in the manufacturing sector. Recent data show South Korean firms lost nearly 3 percentage points in net profitability ratio, the second largest decline among 25 major economies. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
There are growing concerns. A young Korean man reported missing in Turkey more than a week ago might have joined Islamic State in Syria. Authorities in Korea say they have found pictures of Islamic State-related material on the man's computer. Nothing has been confirmed yet, though, as Korea and Turkey step up efforts to try and work out where he went. Son Jung-in reports.
Seoul's foreign ministry says the 18-year-old man surnamed Kim was last seen on January 10th after leaving a hotel in Kilis, a town that straddles the Turkey-Syria border. His disappearance came to light 2 days later when Kim's travel companion, a Korean national in his 40s, reported him missing to the Korean embassy in Ankara. A Turkish daily newspaper reported on Saturday that Kim had crossed the border into Syria to join the Islamic State militant group after exchanging emails with one of its members. Authorities in Seoul initially cast doubt on the allegations, saying they had found no substantive evidence he was in contact with IS. However, new clues have come to light. Police in Korea say they found some photos on the teenager's computer showing IS members holding rifles and the group's distinctive black flag. And an employee of the hotel where Kim was staying in Kilis reportedly said he was wearing an Islamic-style headscarf and was carrying a full backpack as he left the hotel. The hotel employee said he thought Kim might have been planning on going to Syria, explaining that the area is a common route that foreign fighters take to join the terror group. Authorities in Korea and Turkey are working in close coordination to try and locate the teenager. If confirmed, it would mark the first known case of a Korean national joining Islamic State. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea, connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on NEWSLINE at Noon with Mark Broome and Eoh Jin-joo.
I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
Market researcher, strategy analytics, said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about...
The Korean government has unveiled a very ambitious plan to attract tens of billions of dollars in investors' funds to take the country's tourism industry to the next level. The plan includes the construction of 2 new $926 million mega resorts containing casinos and other luxury facilities. Ji Myung-gil has more.
The plan calls for the prompt spending of nearly $16 billion previously earmarked for the development of 4 mega projects and aims to attract more than $7 billion in new investments for the construction of hotels, resorts, and theme parks for a total of $23 billion. The plan was formulated by the Ministries of Finance, Tourism, and Land and other government agencies. One of the 4 mega projects would develop the land in the U.S. Army's Yongsan garrison in central Seoul. The other projects would develop land once used as the headquarters of Korea Electric Power Corporation, build auxiliary facilities for cogeneration plants in new towns, and expand OLED display assembly lines. To boost the country's tourism industry, the government will build 2 resorts with new investment targets of nearly $930 million each. The resorts will have hotels, conference halls, fine dining, shopping malls, leisure and sports facilities, medical facilities, and casinos, which will only be open to foreign tourists. The government says it will also aim to attract funds to expand the number of hotels nationwide to cope with the increasing number of foreign tourists every year.
We expect some $1 billion to be available to construct 5,000 hotel rooms by 2017.
The government also plans to authorize the opening of 4 new duty-free shops, 3 in Seoul and 1 on Jeju Island. In addition, the government hopes to designate 6 new high-tech centers in urban areas and will provide more than $18 billion this year in the form of loans to innovative tech companies. Kim Hyung-kit, Arirang News.
Korea's producer prices dropped for the 5th straight month in December, dipping to their lowest point in 4 years. The Bank of Korea says producer prices went down 0.9% last month from a month earlier. From the previous year, the index marked a 2% decline. The central bank attributed the slide to falling global oil prices that dragged down prices of petroleum goods by more than 10% in December from a month ago. Since the producer price index serves as a leading indicator to consumer price index, this means inflation is likely to remain low. The data follows the central bank's cut in its inflation outlook for this year to 1.9%.
Korea's mobile advertising market is expected to top $925 million this year, meaning it will account for 1/3 of the nation's total online advertising market. A report by local media firm DMC Media shows the mobile advertising market will grow 27% compared to last year due to ever-increasing smartphone usage in the country. The report goes on to say that more mobile advertisements will be in the form of moving animation, videos, and even real-time bidding in 2015. In addition to this, Korea's online advertising market is expected to grow 9% this year, topping $2.8 billion. Now, Korean consumers have long been very, very loyal to Korean-made products, but the tide is turning, with a new report saying Koreans now look at quality and price over where the product is actually from. This is according to the British weekly Economist, which says Koreans are now turning to non-Korea-based websites for their shopping, as they know they can save quite a bit of money. The Weekly says there was a time when Korean celebrities swapped their BMWs for Hyundais to show their patriotism, but such trends have since run their course. It cites 2009 as the point where this kind of patriotic consumerism first lost its edge, when Apple launched its iPhone in Korea and seized 1/4 of the smartphone sales in just the first year it was here in Korea. The Economist also pointed to Korea's free trade agreements for this changing trend, saying that Koreans now have more choice than ever. The ecosystem for startups in Korea is really starting to blossom these days, so much so that some believe Seoul is on the cusp of becoming Asia's Silicon Valley in the coming years. The government has thrown its full support behind nurturing startups. It has been dishing out, or will be dishing out, at least tens of billions of dollars in grants and other subsidies to small and mid-sized businesses, including startups. For the first in our 5-part series on startups here in Korea, here's our Gwon-swa.
Over the past 35 years, only 3 startups have made it to the top 100 companies in terms of market capitalization in Korea. The fact highlights that conglomerates still dominate the Korean economy. But there are signs the corporate landscape is changing. The number of startups in Korea has been breaking records in recent years, reaching nearly 30,000 last year. That's more than triple the number seen during the dot-com bubble from the late 1990s to the early 2000s. The number of serious investors has grown too. Almost $1.3 billion was poured into startups last year, marking a 27% rise from 3 years ago. The startup ecosystem has also strengthened with a rise in angel investors, accelerators, and networks. Startup Alliance, a joint effort between the government and private sector, for example, arranges special events to connect startups with potential partners and clients.
Compared to Canada, where I'm from, Korean government, a lot of Korean institutions providing a really good environment to the people who are preparing to start a business. For example, this kind of a meeting and providing really good information, and there are a lot of seminars.
Experts say the new startup wave is different from the previous boom, when e-commerce was still a fledgling business and internet connections were clunky. Now, net access is instant and easy, and more importantly, mobile.
A lot of small startups, they're trying to connect some kind of services to the smartphone and more efficiently than existing offline businesses. So there will be a lot of new innovations on that front.
President Park Geun-hye wants startups to lead her administration's drive to transform Korea into a creative economy. She has vowed to cut through red tape and provide financial incentives to them. In line with this, the government has earmarked $92 billion this year to support small and mid-sized businesses, including startups. Getting off the ground is one thing, but turning startups into profitable businesses is another. Korea's #1 web portal Naver, one of the most successful startups that survived the dot-com crash, is also providing practical help. It's opening a startup accelerator this year in Seoul's version of Silicon Valley, the Taeheran Valley. That area will also house a government-led tech startup campus and the third Google campus in the world.
The success of startups is key to realizing the government's creative economy plan, which in turn is key to getting the economy back on its feet. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Now, eating but also drinking healthy has become one of the major pursuits for Koreans in recent years, and this has made people choose water over juice or any other beverages, leading to a boost in Korea's bottled water market.
It certainly has, and nowadays you can find trendy water stores stocked with dozens of varieties of water, all the way from sparkling to glacial, and they're staffed even with specially trained water experts to help you make your choice. Here's our Park Ji-won with this week's Industry Insight.
Korea's bottled water market is estimated to hit about $5.5 million in 2014. The market has almost quadrupled over the past 15 years, and last year alone it grew by some 10%. Currently, there are around 100 domestic brands of bottled water in Korea. But the hands-down top seller is Jeju Samdasu, the #1 brand for 16 years running. Let's take a look. Jeju Samdasu has been the invincible market leader since it was launched in the late 1990s. Produced and bottled by the Jeju Special Self-Governing Province Development Corporation, Jeju Samdasu racked up some $206 million in sales revenue last year, a market share of over 35%.
The reason for the continued support from Korean consumers is the unparalleled water quality. Jeju Island has one of the highest levels of precipitation in Korea. The rainfall permeates underground, forming vast groundwater resources. Jeju Island's volcanic rocks function as a natural filter, resulting in clean and naturally mineral-enriched water.
With Jeju Samdasu firmly in the lead, the competition for the #2 spot has been fierce. As of the end of 2014, Baeksansu, a brand launched in 2012 by food and beverage conglomerate Nongsim, has taken the highly coveted second position with a 5.4% market share. While Korea's bottled water market grew about 10% last year, Baeksansu's revenue expanded over 30% from the previous year.
There are three conditions for good water resources: excellent water quality, a clean environment, and abundance of water. Paektusan Mountain meets all three conditions, and that's why Paeksansu is bottled there.
With the growing interest in health and well-being in the nation, sales of bottled water have outpaced the sales of juice, which tends to contain sugar and artificial colors, for the first time. Now that water is one of the most popular beverages, consumers are developing a water palate and a flair for water and food pairings. And premium water bars like this, which sells over 100 bottled water brands, are gaining a foothold. At the bar, water sommeliers offer their advice about which types of water will best suit consumers' needs.
There are many types of bottled water, from glacial water to deep-sea water to spring water. The taste depends on the mineral content and the water's pH. And now that drinking bottled water is now considered as a part of a health and beauty regimen, the market's growth is expected to accelerate in coming years.
Another fast-growing segment is sparkling water. While still in its infant stage, the fizzy drink has quadrupled its market share in just 5 years, and it's estimated to have reached some $32 million last year. And being that it accounted for about 70% of all imported bottled water in Korea, it's estimated to grow at an even faster rate than the still water market. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this hour with our Eunice Kim standing by at the news center.
Eunice, Israel has conducted airstrikes inside Syrian territory, killing at least 6 Hezbollah fighters, including the son of a top commander.
Right, Mark, and this has the potential to kick up tensions in the region, as was threatened by Shiite militant group based in Lebanon. Hezbollah said 2 vehicles were targeted on Sunday, carrying its fighters who were on a field inspection of the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. Among the dead was the son of a slain Hezbollah top commander, Ahmad Mughniya, who had himself been assassinated in 2008, allegedly by Israel. Jihad Mughniya, believed to be in his mid-20s, had stepped up to a more prominent role after the death of his father. Another senior Hezbollah commander and an Iranian national were also reported to have been killed in that latest strike. Following the attack, residents in the areas bordering Israel to the south evacuated for a time in fear of an escalation. So far, there has been no comment from the Israeli military. Gunshots were heard outside of the Delaware residence of U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, and police are investigating whether anything or anyone was hit. The Secret Service said several gunshots were fired around 8:30 Saturday evening local time on a public road several hundred meters from the secured perimeter of the Delaware home. Biden and his wife Jill were in Delaware at the time, but were out of the house for the evening. Soon after hearing the shots, Secret Service personnel saw a vehicle drive away at a high rate of speed. Police arrested one person about half an hour later when he tried to pass an officer securing the area. It is still not yet known, however, whether the individual is tied to the shooting itself. Pope Francis is now on his way back to Rome, wrapping up his jam-packed 5-day trip to the Philippines, Asia's largest Catholic nation. And there were many highlights during the papal visit, including a mass that was held at Tacloban Airport, despite a typhoon bearing strong winds and rain.
When I saw from Rome the catastrophe, I felt that I had to be here. I'm here to be with you. Perhaps a little late, I have to say, but I'm here.
It was a priority for Pope Francis to visit Tacloban City that was wiped out by Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, killing more than 6,000 people. Now on Sunday, the 78-year-old pontiff was moved by a question from a rescued street child who broke into tears asking why God allows innocent children to be abandoned to drug addiction and prostitution and why so little is being done to help. Hugging the child, the Pope responded, "Only when we are able to cry with those in the margins are we able to come close to responding to your question." Later Sunday, a milestone was marked when a record number of people braved powerful winds and rain to pack the rain-soaked Rizal Park. The open-air mass was attended by an unprecedented 6 to 7 million people. According to the Vatican, the most since Pope John Paul II drew 5 million in Manila 20 years ago.
Well, the upper provinces are covered with snow again, but that snow should melt quickly because of mild temperatures and sunnier conditions this afternoon. But despite the sunny skies, it's not a good idea to stay outdoors for a long time because the levels of fine dust are relatively higher than usual in some regions, including here in Seoul. So please bear that in mind. And here are the readings for today. Now, the daytime high in Seoul will top out at 4, while Daegu and Gwangju will peak at 7, and Busan will reach 10 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will see a high of 9, while Daejeon and Dokdo peak at 4 and 5 respectively. Now, the temperatures for this week look very promising, with a high hovering around 5 degrees Celsius, but we have a mix of rain and snow in the forecast on Wednesday evening, which could linger into Thursday morning. Well, that's all for me today. Back to Mark and Jin-joo in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Jion, for the weather. And those are the stories we're following on this Monday lunchtime.
Join Mark and I again at the same time on Tuesday. Thank you for watching.